When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. It is June the 26th, 2021. I am Brisker Ball. I am joined by the Matani as always. Plus, we have some of our favorite people, the victorious Imperium candidates, except IBeast, on our ballot here for the first time in public since our awesome victory on Monday, June the 21st. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome, Matani. Welcome back from vacation. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to be back. I got a little bit of housekeeping business, a little bit of internet spaceship herf blurf I got to get out of the way. So if you're in the Imperium and received my ping about war news at the start of the Meta Show, I'm going to get this out of the way and then we're going to go for our regularly scheduled broadcast. I wouldn't normally have to do this, but sappy gonna sappy. So let me give everybody a brief story time. Yesterday, we received intel from a number of mercenary organizations that were previously or potentially involved in the war in the past earlier on in the year. These are SAPI affiliated mercenaries by and large. And they made a lot of noise all at the same time about how they were going to have an op tomorrow at Sunday at 2300 Eve time, how they were going to come down. And the language was very obvious. It was hilariously amateur hour of, it's going to be an op to save Eve and to save the US time zone, just all this shit. So as you guys know, if you're around yesterday, and if you're not, I'm catching up to speed here. The moment that the Black Hand intercepted this, we of course, the counter to a sneak attack is to tell everybody that a sneak attack is coming, right? You just say, hey guys, they're saying Sunday 2300, so get ready, post up on the walls. And then after I sent a couple broadcasts, we started rallying the troops and making sure polishing the wood chipper, lubricating the gears, sharpening the spines, making sure that the paint on the outside was nice and crisp, get rid of the last blood spots and the sort of gory bits and, just really get it all shiny. And today I wake up and this is before Space Chores, like it's Saturday, right? Like I got hours of meetings every Saturday, right?
What time did you actually wake up? I
woke up 30 minutes before my first meeting. So I got about 4.5 hours of sleep last night. Cause I'd been up to 7 in the morning the night before. I went to bed at like 6:30 this morning, I guess. So a little ragged today, got a bit of a beer belly. If you guys want to see the show, we were on Merkel Chin's Twitch channel. It was a lot of fun. I ran my mouth for like 4.5 hours while drunk and high. It was good times. But where I'm going with this is I woke up today and found out that because we had told everybody that Pappy was planning a big mercenary reinforced sneak attack for Sunday, that the mercenaries have now canceled it, or at least some of them have. And so if you were like canceling your like Sunday night, like late night plans, and like you really had someplace else to be, I want to let people know that PASP is passing again, but we're still going to post up on the walls. We are still going to form up to guard our vulnerabilities. We're probably going to do that tonight at US time zone. I have to tell you this on the Meta Show because the fireside is tomorrow. Now, what's going to be funny here, big picture in terms of SAPI passing yet again, is that this was all an Elf Boy thing. And we have a bunch of funny things to say about Gobbins. We're going to call him some mean names because he doesn't like it. And he thinks that this is an Alliance tournament match. So we've got some pre-planned herf to shit on Gobbins here today for the Meta Show. But before we get into the pre-planned shitting on Gobbins, I want you guys to know that this motherfucker called a Horde town hall. So before the mercenaries canceled their shit, Gobbins had announced that there was going to be a town hall tomorrow, hours before the 2300 mercenary strike. So now Gobbins is going to get up in front of the entire galaxy tomorrow at the same time I'll be giving my fireside. And we need to be on guard. Maybe he's going to say, hey, we're going to do this. Maybe he's going to tell everybody that there's going to be a massive disappointment. We don't know what he's going to do. But he had planned a secret attack involving mercenaries. We exposed that plan. after he told everybody he was going to do a town hall on Sunday. So all eyes on Elf Boy, and we're going to man the walls no matter what. But I just want to let people know that if you were expecting a massive mercenary sneak attack like the mercenaries were saying yesterday, we may be massively disappointed. By Gobbins. Same shit, different weekend, guys. So just that's it. Just want to let my guys know from the Imperium what to expect. So, you know, if you have a date night out with your wife or girlfriend, or you want to do something, you know, that's okay. But we will be there manning the walls. Just be prepared. Be prepared if you are expecting any great big fights. Be prepared for a disappointment from them. We will try to entertain our people, but that's it for me. That's the pre-show warning. So let's go. Where are we going, Brisk?
All right, here we go. Where we're going. First of all, just to repeat what Matani said for a second. For those of you who didn't see it, last night was by far one of the most epic evenings we have had on Rampage Incorporated, which is Rampage Incorporated is Merkel Chen's stream. He allows me and Nominate to join him almost every night. Namna's been on vacation. He's here with us now from an undisclosed location south of the Mason-Dixon line. We're happy to have him here. But we've had guests on all week on Rampage to fill in that third seat. And last night was Mittens. And if you guys didn't see it, you really need to go see it. But you also need to recognize that the three of us went really hard in the paint last night. So we're going to do our best to keep this entertaining. But, you know.
I had a great time. I got to run my mouth for 4.5 hours. I feel bad for anybody who has to listen to the fucking recording of that shit.
Mark, are you feeling okay?
I'm doing great. I'll be honest with you. I was playing hurt when the day first got started. By 1:30 p.m., I had used DoorDash 3 times. So it was one of those where I needed immediate and constant provisions coming my way. But I'm doing fine. Look, if there's something I think we've probably proven to each other is that we can usually rally after those big ones. You can.
Well, we're professional partiers. We know what's up, you know. And I have an order in a day or two of whenever Amazon gets it to me. I ordered it live at the start of the show last night. That Party Smart stuff or Smarty Party or whatever. So it's
Mrs.
good.
Brisk
It's
said,
good.
I mean, look here. When we started the night, it was a regular old night. It was nice. By the end of the night, Mrs. Brisk had sent Merkel Chen like 3 orders of Smarty Parts. Matani had eaten an entire plate of Ethiopian food on camera.
It was really good.
I forgot about that.
It was amazing. I love Ethiopian food. I'm sitting there. My girlfriend, she and one of her girlfriends went downtown, and they come back and they'd eaten at like one of the one Ethiopian places in Madison. And so here I am. I was drinking on an empty stomach. I had only had just like breakfast, and it was a busy day because if you watch the stream, you'll hear the story about me and my girlfriend rescuing our angelfish from almost getting boiled. And then in the middle of this, I'm like 2 hours in, I'm just fucking gone. And then just suddenly out of the corner of my eye, because it's all dark in my room, Interview with the Vampire style at the time, because this was night, turn the lights off. And there's this wonderful plate of fucking Ethiopian food. The injera is there. And I'm, it was like at Vegas a few years ago at that amazing party where, like, everyone is just getting the munchies and the party is hitting the peak, and then the In-N-Out burgers care of, like, Skeptic Nerd Guy brings 100 fucking doubles into this Vegas party that's just primed for it, and everybody goes berserk. And that was me with the Ethiopian food last night. It was great. It was good times.
So he eats a whole plate of Ethiopian food. Somebody broke into Merck's house and stole an entire 12-pack of Big Wave from him. How dare they?
Which is hard to do considering how close my beer fridge is to me. And honestly, if anybody's got any leads on what happened to those Big Waves, I'd like them back. I was planning on using some of those tonight, but they left empty cans. Like, what kind of scumbag? Who are you, sickos?
Who does that? And most importantly, by the end of the night, Extra Squishy ended up back in Karma Fleet. I don't know how this even happened.
I don't know either.
But
I invited the wrong one like 3 times. So
I finally had to pull the right one up and make sure you saw him. Like, it's this guy. It's him. It's this one. Squishy has even more freaking alts than I do of people making jokes with it. So anyway, we got Squishy back. We had a good time. A lot of stuff was eaten. So if you want to go watch the VOD on that, I suggest go check out Rampage Incorporated. That's our evening where we prove that some CSM members actually do play the game every day. All right. That being said, we're going to hit our top story, which is CSM 16 elections were on Monday, and we did pretty good. So if you are a watcher of the show, and I would like to think that all of you that are here are watchers of the show, you know that every year after the CSM election, we usually bring all of the Imperium folks that come out here and that ran and that won onto the show. We have 4 of the 5 that were on the Imperium ballot. We have 4 of the 5 that were on the initiatives ballot. But we managed to pull off pretty significant victories this year, and I wanted to talk about that because I think it's important. And we also want to make sure that you guys are aware there has been some misinformation out there posited by
Elf boy be lying. Elf boy's lying again. That's all he knows how to do. Eat hot chip, feed it, and come and lie.
Our dear friends on the other side seem to think that somehow they managed to pull one off on us, and that they somehow managed to do something that the Imperium has never done, which was get like 4 people on the CSM, which I laugh at because CSM 13 had like 7 Imperium members on it at one point, but that's okay. But here, I'm gonna put this up on the screen because I wanted you guys to see it, and then we're gonna debunk it a little bit, and then I'm mainly putting this up on the screen because I want to trigger Merc, because this just drives him crazy. So this is what our dear friend Gobbin said about what they managed to pull off. Smug Ping, our ballot organization. Firstly, thanks so much to everyone who voted. We got even more votes this year than last year, which surprised me. All right, I have to do this real quick. I'm sorry. Do you know how many more votes they got than last year, guys? Anybody?
How many
guess?
more? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to do elf boy math because it's Gobbinsing. So tell me, how many did, is this going to be like a Horde battle report broadcast ping where it turns out that they actually like got less votes than last year and everything is wrong? Okay.
They did get more. They got a whopping 61 more votes this year than they did last year.
I didn't know this because like I knew that we won and then I moved on to 61. Smoking and drinking and not paying attention to it, but I didn't realize it was actually that bad. Like this is one of the things. So like, this is just a little word to the wise here. They're not going to change their behavior because it's the same way as like when Horde broadcasts a battle report, where like we then get to send the real battle report out showing like where they edited it, like whatever. If you lie stupidly, we're going to take screenshots and prove that you lied to your people because you treat them like customers at a fucking McDonald's franchise and you don't actually give a shit about your people because you let anybody into fucking Horde. So you think you can just get away with these fucking lies, elf boy, even though you're supposed to be smarter than everybody else because you're a scientist or whatever. And yet your dumbass doesn't understand that we can check the fucking math and publish it in front of a live audience to show that you're a lying, idiotic piece of shit. If you're gonna try to be deceptive, try to be smart about it. All right, let's go into it. Let's see how much better they did.
So basically, here's the deal. Now, I have to preface everything we're going to say about these elections because it is very difficult to determine who voted. We can only really look at the way the ballots played out and first round votes. So when I say that he got 61 more votes than last year, I'm looking at the first round ballots from CSM 15, comparing them with the first round ballots to CSM 16. Because typically speaking, your average line member that told, hey, you need to vote for our ballot, will put the main guy in the ballot number 1. That's it. Gobbins was number 1. He had 3,709 votes in CSM 15. He had 3,770 votes on this CSM, on CSM 16. Now, let me ask you this. How many more votes do you think our dear friend Merkelchen got over last year? Any guesses?
Let's see. Let's see the fucking numbers. You know me, numbers with a hangover.
Guesses? Here's the number. Our dear friend Merkelchen got 2,401 more votes on CSM 16 than he did on CSM 15. CSM 15 first round votes 5,325 for Merkelchen. CSM 16 7,726 votes. Let me tell you something else. Do you know who is the single highest vote getter in the history of the CSM that actually took his seat? His name is Merkelchen, and it was this election.
Ah,
The single
there you
highest
go.
vote getter of all time is sitting next to me, but he didn't take a seat because that was Wizard Head Town. So the thing is, when it comes down to it, and we're gonna pull this up in a minute. As much as Horde and the rest of Sappy want to claim that they had some kind of amazing turnout or some crazy amount, I mean, they did have more people show up overall. They got more votes overall, but there are 3 times as many of them as there are of us, so it makes sense. If you look at turnout in terms of who voted their ballots, which we're going to get to in a minute, we did exactly what we wanted to do. We got 5 of our folks on our ballot elected, including Suetonia. Suit, how much did the Imperium ballot help you?
I think I might have got on without the Imperium and the initiative ballots, but it would have been very close. Like the Imperium ballot was definitely the kingmaker, I think.
Really?
You guys,
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I thought awesome.
Yeah, if you look at when Brisk gets elected, if you scroll down to the very bottom of the audit log thing, when Brisk gets elected, I think something like 780 votes transfer over to me, which is kind of surprising. So just being 4th place on the initiative ballot and 9th on the Imperium ballot is still 780 votes. Which is kind of crazy. Yeah. That's more than a lot of.
Well, good. Then
that's
awesome.
More than almost everybody got. I mean, everybody that got elected. There's only 2 people that got even close to that. That ended up doing well. So I have to say that was a pretty big deal for us. I think it was very helpful. iBeast didn't get nearly as many from us as Suetonia did, but Suetonia got, I think, over 700, and potentially, that could have been the difference down at the end. I think he still would have got. I think he still would have got on anyway. But the way that this works, and Merc, do you want to talk about how we figure this stuff out? Because you're kind of the expert here.
Well, based on what I was reading in that ping, I feel like maybe I'm not. Maybe we didn't do this right. Look, we wrote the book on the STV shit before anybody even understood what it was. I know nowadays there's helpful YouTube videos that can explain this to smooth-brained people, but we had a pretty cognizant understanding of precisely how this works and how to make it give us an advantage. We have long been able to trade far down ballot positions in the Imperium ballot for high up ballot positions on other people's ballots. A great example of this was the trade that we did with Sword Dragon and Darkness that got us a CSM rep, because what we usually try to do is survey the field and see who's going to get close but probably whiff. And those are the folks that we're usually interested in working with, because something has to happen to those votes. I mean, now that you guys can see it played out, when Aurora or Swift gives you sort of the round by round breakdown, 200 going this way, 500 going that way, it makes a lot of sense, right? There is equal importance to, not only you obviously want to hit your electability number, right? That's critically important. But in the early rounds, survival is paramount. You have to just outlast everybody else if you think that there are votes where you are on a ballot that have not yet matriculated their way down to you. So this year we considered to be a resounding success. We thought we were going to get 3, we got 3. We thought they were going to get 4, they got 4. The difference between our 3 and their 4 is I had already had 3 or 4 cocktails and been out celebrating by the time Villy, Mr. 8th Place, got notification that he was going to be on, and we had been streaming probably already for an hour before PGL sort of snuck in by the skin of his teeth. He did not even hit the election cutoff number. He was just the last man standing. So
sloppy ninth, sloppy 10th.
I don't know that I would call that like some cerebral play. They have an ability to divide up the ballot. I mean, obviously we have intercepts of all the different ballots and all the different groups in Pappy. They can carve that up a lot easier than we can without causing confusion in their ranks. If we did something like that, like give, maybe Karma Fleet has 3 different ballots in 3 different orders or something like that, it gets very confusing. It gets hard to communicate. It's difficult to execute on. We are really, really comfortable with the strategy that we've used the last few years. We've seeded more CSM reps than any other alliance or coalition has even gotten remotely close to. So I really don't need anybody to tell us how STV works or whether or not we're doing it wrong.
I mean, let me just sort of sum all this shit up here, is because you're gonna hear about this a lot, about how Elf Boy is a liar, and he's bad at it, right? And what it comes down to is, we usually get 3 people on, right, from like the main like Goonswarm part of the Imperium. Like we usually get our top 3. In this case, it was great that we were able to help Satonia get on. Like that's fantastic. I don't know a damn thing about any of the stuff that Satonia knows, but I know he knows it, right? So he's actually like good at the stuff that he does. And I think that we need people like that on the CSM. What's different is that this, they doth protest too much, right? Like instead of just going like, okay, we got some of the sappy representatives on and we just squeaked by. And if you listen to Villy's town hall before there, he thought Villy didn't think he was going to get on, but Fraternity's votes managed to get Villy on in 8th place, and then Piggles and the other person managed to get swept on dead last. The reality is that the reason why Elf Boy is bragging about, his big win and trying to show lying statistics, which would not pass peer review, this dumb motherfucker thinks that we're not going to call him on it, right? I mean, it's just, he's lying about it, and he's trying to claim that there's a win to cover up for the fact that they actually did not organize their ballots appropriately.
Worse than that.
Yeah, they fucked it up. Go for it.
Worse than that. Their turnout numbers were just in the toilet, and we're going to get to that in a second.
The Brave shit was wild, yeah.
Exactly. But I wanted to throw it. I want to get Nam Nam on in here because he hasn't had a chance to talk yet. And frankly, one of the things I am proudest of is the fact that Nam Nam skated in on the first round this time. Didn't have to worry about anything. We didn't have to cut any deals. We got him in. And Aminet, you are going into your 6th term on the CSM. You are now tied with Steve Ranukin for being the longest tenured CSM representatives. How does that feel?
I'm not happy that that CCP decided to put in rules that are going to stop me from breaking his record.
Well, you got to take a year break, and then we got to get you back on there, right?
Yeah, and like Gobbins does have a point. If you really are trying to optimize how many people you get onto the CSM, you want to have as many people as you can just barely getting on. But, that can get you 4 or 5 people, or if you miscalculate, you get 0 people. So it's not something to be proud of, and it's not a good strategy.
Exactly. And to Nam Nam's point, and guys, yes, we are aware he is traveling. Cut him a little bit of slack on the microphone. We worked on it ahead of time.
I apologize for the terrible mic.
It's fine. I'm just happy you're here because I didn't think you were going to make it, and I like it when you come. That's what she said. Anyway, I want to make sure that we got everybody on here that we could, but I want to pull these numbers up because this is pretty funny. Anybody on the other side that wants to claim that they had some super big win, that they did so great and everything like that. All right, let me just show you what we did compared to what you guys did. So, the CSM election, voter turnout and ballot discipline, and some of this stuff's going to be covered over because obviously I put the guys in front. Let me actually fix that so you guys can actually see the things, and you're not going to get to see our lovely faces for a minute. Here it is. Sappy. Fraternity's ballot, they had the best ballot turnout, they had the best ballot discipline. And the way that we looked at this was, we have Sutonia, who did a great job putting together each of the different ballots and determining who voted for what and where they all were. So we're looking at the numbers that voted the party line ballot as was told to their people. Fraternity had 10.1% turnout ballot discipline on there. NCPL had 8.6%. Now, they had 2 different ballots, but the one that Lady Scarlet confirmed was the official one, had 519 people voted out of their 6,011 characters total. Horde's turnout. The one, Gobbins was so excited. We did so great. We did so much better than we ever did before. 8%. Okay? Test ballot turnout, 4.7%. Fire, who ProGod was able to get, I think one of the reasons why ProGod was able to do as well as he did was he had a lot of the much smaller groups in Pappy putting him first. That's what gave him enough votes to stick around long enough to get on. They had 1.3% turnout. Brave, the second largest legacy alliance, 14,000 characters in Brave, had 137 people vote the main ballot that they put out. 0.9%. Okay? That's what they did. Now, how do you think we did? Let's see. All right? Here you go.
Let's see. Let's you brought receipts today.
Imperium
I love this.
ballot turnout. 19.2%. Almost 1/5 of the Imperium.
Fuck yeah.
Showed up.
That's how
and
it's
voted
fucking
the party
done,
line.
boys. That's some space Chad voting right there. You guys think that you're going to be able to take 1DQ1 when Brave can barely even vote more people than they put in a fucking fleet? And you see this when your numbers are dropping and you're crying about how it's CCP's fault because it's a PCU crisis because you realized that you listened to Elfboy and you were massively disappointed. And you were so massively disappointed you didn't fucking vote. So this is what you fucking get. Now you get to claim, oh, well, I swear we got a few more votes than last time. We're going to win this. We're so good. We're so good. We beat the Imperium, guys. Oh, gosh. Yeah, so eat shit, bitches. That's what you get right there. That's a fucking block vote. That is a fucking block vote.
It is.
I think this also shows a little bit more that, block votes are people who care more. It's not that the blocks are evil. It's that the people who are part of these blocks care more about the game. They care more about being involved in the game. And so that's why you don't see the non-block groups getting votes anywhere because they don't have enough players who actually care.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly that's the thing. When it comes down to it, if we were dying, if we were losing the war, if our morale was in the shitter, the idea that we could get 20% of the Imperium to show up. And the funny thing is, if you look at these numbers, that 6,496 are only the folks that voted the Imperium ballot.
Mm-hmm.
We know
that
that
doesn't
more
count people going on squad
they,
snowflake ballots or the other snowflake ballots. Like,
correct.
We got a lot of votes. That is just the pure state-mandated ticket. That is it.
Those people who exercise their freedom to vote the way the state tells them.
Precisely.
That is exactly
Heroes
what we
all.
got.
Heroes all.
In terms of overall numbers, we got way more than that. This is the other thing that I think is important, and I want to shout out to my initiative brothers. In it almost never has a coordinated ballot. Pando and I have put out ballots of, hey, if you guys want to vote, we're going to make this suggestion. Darkshines this year for the first time said, this is important. We need to make sure that this happens, and turned out our folks. And even then, first time in a group that is as freedom-loving and independent-minded as in it. And any of you guys in the Imperium, you know that that's true. We are the finger that likes to stick out from the glove. Let me tell you, usually it's the middle finger. 12.9% turnout. That to me is beautiful. That is higher than anybody else on the other side. And in terms of raw votes, we had almost, I think it was right around 100 vote difference between the number of folks that voted the test ballot and the number of folks that voted the initiative ballot, despite the fact that test has we have 4,840 characters in the initiative. Test has 16,940 characters in test. Almost 3 to 4 times minimum the number that we have. And we were able to do that. And we're a dead alliance, according to the bad guys.
Oh, of course. A dead alliance who's going to be leaving the Imperium at any moment, of course, because
correct.
As we all know, the moment that Elf Boy and crew turned up at Delve, we're going to lose 30% of our numbers, and we're going to run to Saranen, and I don't even fucking know. Like, it's just a joke at this point. It's hard for me to even, like, get super herfity blurf about it, because just fucking look at them. Like, even while we're sitting here on the show, and we'll shit on them about this later, but they fed a fucking, like, they did some dumbass Svipple Edencom fleet and just ate all kinds of shit to us just, like, 10 fucking minutes ago. So, whatever. Eat my ass, bitches.
But remember, Matani, you and I are bad for EVE Online. Just keep that
totally bad for EVE Online. Why don't you fucking do something about it, bitches? Oh, wait, you've been trying for more than a year, and you can't seem to do a fucking thing.
They've been trying to do that. So last but not least,
let
me just show up. Here is the final CSM numbers. Merkelchen, Gobbins, and Aminet, myself, Ken Feld, IBeast, I'm looking forward to working with Lucy Lou. He's going to be great. Sutonia, Villy, Progot, and Mike Azariah. 7 of the 10 are returning CSM members. Sutonia is a former CSM member that has gotten on. Progot is a former CSM member that's gotten on. Lucy Lou is the only new person that's never been on the CSM that is on this one. And just in case you guys were wondering, they did show this on the screen. Gobbins, Corporation, Pandemic Horde, Alliance, Goonsform Federation. Let me be clear. Gobbins is not a goon.
Yeah.
Okay. In case you were wondering. He's not a goon.
No.
All right.
No.
So that is our discussion of the CSM elections. I think when it comes down to it, you guys made this happen. It was you guys showing up, and I'm talking to the Imperium members in the chat. I know there are some Pappy folks in here. You guys showed up in numbers we have not seen in a very, very long time. You made it possible for Merck and myself and Anominate to get on very early so that we didn't have to sit there sweating it out like I have to the last 2 times that I ran. I'll tell you, like the CSM 15, I came in on the second to last round, and Anominate and I both did. And the first time I ran, they put me, literally, I was the last one that got on, and I was freaking out. So thank you guys for that. You have demonstrated yet again the discipline and the willingness to show up and do what you're asked that nobody else in the game does, and that's why we're as good at getting folks elected as we are.
Damn straight.
All right. So we're going to move on here right now to the next segment of the show. We're going to start talking a little bit about the war and how things are going, and then if we have a little bit of time, I want to talk to Sutonia specifically about some changes that are going on that came out on CC, and we can talk to the other CSM members as well about that. But we're going to move on to our next segment, which is why Gobbins deserves most of the blame for the way the war is going right now.
Yes. Elf Boy's turning the fucking barrel.
Now, I have some quotes for you guys, and I want to remind everybody. Here we go. It's time. Today is June the 26th. April 24th, 2 months ago and 2 days, was the day of the first of it's the end of the war phase town halls from our dear friends in SAPI. And this was the first one that Gobbins had done in quite a while that we got a hold of and we were listening to and we thought was very interesting. And many of our favorite quotes of all time came up here. I'm going to play a couple of these for you. It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months. 2 months ago, this is what Gobbins said were the objectives of this war.
The goal, as you can see, is made of 2 distinct objectives. First is to clear the last systems in the constellation around 1DQ, and then there's the assault on 1DQ itself.
That's it. Clearing the constellations around 1DQ, then the assault on 1DQ itself. What progress has been made in those 2 months? Anyone?
Merkelton, you want to step up to the plate here on this? Or
I was going to say I gained 11 pounds from drinking too much beer because I wasn't doing anything. Is there a real answer to this?
I read a lot of books about, like, space aliens, and I got to go on like 2 vacations. Actually, I got 2 trips down to Galena, Illinois to blow off some sleep. I smoked a lot. I rested. I slept for 11 hours the other day. I
want to go to Galena, Illinois. That's Ulysses Grant's hometown.
Hell yeah. But like war progress. That elf boy.
The answer is 0. They've not made any progress.
They fed some Skybreakers and some Stormbringers.
They definitely got a lot of their own people to stop logging in.
That's significant progress, let me tell you. And I think, when it comes down to it, what they said, and I didn't clip this because it was too long, but what they said they intended to do was to continue the constant harassment that they had been doing throughout the rest of the war, setting out fleets, hitting iHubs, hitting different structures, doing this, doing that, breaking in, getting it all, and doing all the stuff that they had done before, because that's how it worked. Because all they had to do was win one. We couldn't keep defending it over and over and over and over again. And then guess what happened? We kept defending over and over and over and over again. And I think it's funny because they keep asking, they keep talking, and a lot of the questions in that town hall in late June, in late April, I should say, were all about, well, what is it? How do we know the war is over? When do we know the war is over? Here's what he said, like, how do we know we've won? This is what Gobbins says is the answer to how they will know that they won.
Salam is asking, what do we consider won? That's a good question. I should have specified again right at the start. The answer is the same objective that we claimed earlier, which is burning 1DQ. And if you want more details, I would say that burning 1DQ entails, like in the ideal scenario, killing the central staging keepstar of the goons. Otherwise, taking down those 4 Tsars that we hold a grudge on, that would be a nice sort of mid-step if we were to somehow get as far as, say, getting into 1DQ, but we just can't crack that last keepstar. That would be nice too. But essentially, our goal remains 1DQ.
Their goal remains 1DQ. And today, 2 months before that statement, 2 months after that statement, they are no farther along taking 1DQ than they were 2 months ago. What do you guys know? What do they have? What's the grudge against the faction Fortizars? Did Sword take them from them or something? I don't.
Basically, it's just an excuse that Gobbins has to wave around, right? Like, in the treaty, he was decided that was his sub goal. Like, I think that he started talking about the 40 faction Fortizars when he realized that they weren't actually going to be able to take 1DQ or win the war. So suddenly that was like his consolation prize, or like maybe I would signal that I had acknowledged the loss or something or other, which I will never ever do because we're winning. Sorry, bitch, eat my ass. Yeah, no, I think that was just the faction Fortizars became like an excuse for why they were gonna take a lesser prize, because they just can't do it. And I want to clarify for everybody here, there's a reason why Brisk has receipts today. I understand that what we're doing here to Elf Boy looks like it's cruel and unusual. It is cruel, but there's a good reason for it, because there's a difference between the way that Gobbins behaves and the way that your guys like Villy or Progod or these other guys do. You've got people who are seeking the spotlight, and the thing about Gobbins is that he is the #1 strategic power amongst Sappy, right? He brings the most dudes to the field. He is in charge of Pandemic Horde. That means he has a tremendous amount of leadership responsibility. But because he is a spotlight dodger, what we essentially have to do, because all the Progods and all the Villies and all the headliners are, hey guys, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm space important, pay attention to me, and they want the attention. We believe, and this is why Brisk has receipts, that the blame for losing the war goes on Gobbins. But in order to actually get that, we have to go into his nerd cave and sort of say, hey, look at this fucking nerd, and look what he has done, and look what he has said, and look what he has been responsible for. And so that's why we're doing this. We are building a case, because Gobbins is not going to come seek the spotlight, because he's especially not going to seek the spotlight because the responsibility for the failure in large part as the big #1 strategic autocrat on their side, he can be the shot caller. He can pull the rope and stop the factory floor. So that is why we are doing this. It is cruel, but it is important. So let's keep exposing the truth.
Not all of the war criminals do it in the spotlight.
Exactly.
Well, and I think that's the point. And I think when we were talking about this before, the thing that I think everybody needs to understand is, yes, Villy and Progod have gotten more than their fair share of attention from us. We've given them a hard time. We've criticized their judgment. We've criticized the things that they've done. But they're not the enablers here. This war would not and could not have happened if Pandemic Horde hadn't said, yes, we are going to go with you. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at every fleet, if you look at all the numbers, Horde is the backbone. Horde is the horse that is carrying the rest of these horses, something else is out there. They've been carrying these guys for the last time. Honestly, I feel bad for Gobbins. He's got to have a real solid pain in his back right now from carrying these guys for the last year, because he has. But I think the point is, he has been carrying them. And if you're concerned and you're worried about why the war is taking so long, why it's never going to end, or at least they think it's never going to end, it's because they have set goals, and Gobbins has set goals that are unachievable, but they refuse to accept that, and they won't back down because they're going to take 1DQ. At least that's what they claim they're going to do. Now, the most important quote of all time from this town hall is the one I'm going to play now. This is the most famous one, and I'm going to play that. Then I have a question for Suetonius, and then I have a question for Nam, and then we're going to go off and continue this line of discussion. But this is what he said that really got us torqued the first time, and I'm going to play it again in full because I think it's important.
If somebody is expecting that this is going to be a quick and high sort of activity, large numbers, massive fight, I believe you'll be disappointed in your expectation.
If you think it's going to be a big fight, you're going to be disappointed in your expectations. This is their active strategy. Bore us to death until we stop logging in, and then maybe they'll log in. But in the meantime, the entire game is starting to shit the bed because nothing is happening, and 2/3 of the map won't fight each other because they're in the middle of this war. So Tony, what do you think about the way the war is going now and the impact it's having on the game overall?
It's definitely making the rest of the game a lot more stagnant, right? There's a lot less content around for people to get, especially for solo and small gang PvPers like me, the groups that I'm part of, because there's way less people crabbing in their backfields, and the people who are, they don't fight to defend because all of the PvPers are in Delve, so there's a whole lot less to do in the game.
And I think that's the feeling that Merc and Nam and I have had, because we've been going around doing filaments and roaming on Rampage almost every night. And if you can get up into like RC space or somewhere where there's active people still there, they'll get a fight. But if you go anywhere where the big guys are out, you're not going to see anybody. You're not going to see anybody in space, and you're not going to get any fights. Nominate. What's your take on this whole thing? I mean, do you think we can? Is it fair for us to lay this at Gobbin's feet, or are we being jerks?
Oh, absolutely. This war was kicked off by Billy and Piggles as the extermination of goons, and everybody who is fighting with them is fighting for that same goal, even if that's not their personal motivation. So you got a lot of people on Pappy who have disagreed with that and said, well, I'm just fighting the goons for fun. Well, no, you're supporting the people who are trying to exterminate Goon Swarm. So regardless of whether or not that's why you're actually there, you're still supporting the extermination. And now, obviously, we're at the point where that's just a big joke. But like that is what you're backing. You can't back the people who are saying we're exterminating Goon Swarm and then say, well, I'm not supporting it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the World War II analogy, but it makes itself.
Yep.
And yeah. And as far as the PCU numbers, like it's not 2/3 of the galaxy are blued up anymore. It's the entire galaxy, except for one constellation, is blued up. Mm-hmm. So there is nowhere for any of those people to go to find content except to jump into the wood chipper. And you can only jump into the wood chipper so many times before it gets kind of boring.
Well, we're having fun anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Wood chipper rules. I love the fucking wood chipper. We just had some fun with wood chipper during the middle of the show, and we're getting reports of it. It seems like we polished the spikes on it pretty well. But yeah,
But you have this 150,000 people now where their options are they can rat, but CCP killed ratting. They can mine, but CCP killed mining. They can jump into 1DQ and get wood chippered. And there's nowhere else that they can go because they're all blue to each other. Like, how much of that is contributing to people logging off and not coming back?
So, Tony, you're joining the CSM again as all of this is happening. How does that feel? What are you concerned about how we're all going to work together with all this stuff going on? What's your take on that?
I don't know what to make of it, really. So, it'll at least it'll be challenging and fun, right?
And what do you say to the conspiracy theorists in chat who point out that no one has ever seen you and Ed Sheeran in the same place at the same time? Is that a fair criticism?
I'm pretty sure I don't look like Ed Sheeran at all. Doesn't he have red hair?
I don't know. Well, it's dark. You never know. It's hard to see. So, all right. Couple other things, and then we'll move on.
Should I touch on this PCU thing? Like, I don't know if you've got.
Well, yeah, that's where I kind of wanted to go
okay.
Next up here. But go ahead, boss.
I mean, so like, here's the thing: we were cat's out of the bag because I already riffed on this last night during the Rampage Inc. stream, but you know. All of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks, oh my God, there was a pop-up. Like, you know, I get it. CCP's marketing sucks, and they do things that piss people off periodically. But all of a sudden, the motherfuckers that actually built the goddamn Blue Donut, like better than Serenity, they blued everyone, and they brought the entire galaxy of conflict down to 2 systems, one of which we're having fun in, and they're having trouble getting into, and the other that they are having less and less fun, more and more people logging off. And they have the entire fucking galaxy, and they're all blue with each other. So they can crab as much as they want, wherever they want in the entire fucking galaxy. And lo and behold, this last week, when you can see the air going out of the tires, right? You can see like, oh, here's a Skybreaker doctrine. Here's a... They're looking for the grasping at straws, looking at excuses, because nobody wants to be the adult and say, sorry, you failed, you lost the war, it's time to face facts here. So what's happening? Their diehards leapt on the scarcity thing, which they haven't been talking about for the last couple of years at all. Like the sappy line members are going, CCP's fault, shoot the monument, scarcity bad, motherfuckers, you have all of Eve except for one constellation, and you're still blue to each other, and you're such a bunch of pathetic sacks of shit that it is going to be written down in the history books about this war. Literally, there's going to be a hardcover fucking history book about what little bitches you were, that you whined about scarcity when you blued the entire galaxy and conquered everything but one constellation. But now that you can't get it up on a Friday night, Gobbins. And so, gosh, it's the PCU, it's CCP, it's scarcity. I am a sappy member and I love the Blue Donut and I can crab anywhere I want in the entire galaxy, but I'm suddenly very concerned about an ad that came up at the wrong place in the wrong time. I'm glad that you're writing your fucking excuses so you can slink back to whatever holes you crawled out from, you hypocritical pubby fucks.
And all right,
Eat
so
shit.
just to Matani's point, and I think this is interesting. This is a bit of a longer quote, so bear with me. But I was very surprised. Last week, before the CSM election, Gobbins had another town hall where he was talking to his people about the CSM, why it's important to vote for them. And he essentially tried to take credit for scarcity. I'm not lying.
Gobbins has got player scarcity. Gobbins, absolutely. I give Gobbins credit for player scarcity. High fives. You did it, Elf Boy. Player scarcity. You done it.
This is a little bit of a long quote, but I'm going to play it for you guys. Listen to this, and you tell me if I'm reading it wrong, okay?
What the CSM has achieved. In order to answer this question, the most important thing is to look at what the state of the game was like before we started getting our own guys into the CSM.
What it was like before they got their people.
How many things were changed since then. And so if you take a snapshot of Eve 2 years ago, you still had, number one, the meta completely dominated by these giant Super Cup umbrellas, where anybody that wanted to catch up or be part of a serious player had to rely on a massive umbrella and then massive mining operations, basically, and routing too, where in a small amount of space under the umbrella, you could generate basically an infinite amount of anomalies, whether it's for mining or for routing, protected under perfect coverage of the umbrella.
Because that was so horrible for you guys playing.
Citadels were also much harder to kill. That, if you remember, back then there was no low power state, so you could spam these and not even fuel them, no abandoned state. The defender could choose even the day of the citadel would come out, so you could set up your citadels to all come out on a certain day of the week and not have to worry as much about defending your shit on the rest of the days of the week. There was a lot of really cancerous mechanic that people easily forget had to be fought and essentially gotten rid of from the game in order to allow the situation today. Now,
wait a second. So let me get this straight. Is he claiming credit for scarcity? Is he actually saying that he did scarcity?
The effect that scarcity has on, first of all, just fun of making money or making less than before, sometimes for the same activity, but also on content, because when there's less people out there making ISK, it's also harder to find content. And these are excellent critiques of the state of scarcity. But to me, it's important whenever you frame such a critique that you remember that the reason but CCP had to implement such drastic measures with regards to the economy is that the situation was so in such unmanageable state, like a runaway number of just amount of minerals, money, and super caps put into the economy, that they had to do something very drastic, and we're dealing with it now. And I guess my bottom line is that most of the problems that caused this runaway economy began before we got into the CSM. And I'm not saying that we were the only ones who helped fix this, but at least we were part of the effort through the other colleagues in the CSM and CCP to bring the game back to a state closer to sustainability and what it is today.
Okay, so that's
there's some serious bullshit there,
right?
Like, first of all, when he says umbrella, what he means is the umbrella in Delve.
Because nobody cared about the umbrella anywhere else, right?
The umbrella is still perfectly functional in the drone
Did Gobbins push scarcity? Are we like? I want to understand this because that was a long clip, and before we get into the line by line, is the net takeaway of that Gobbins was saying he was claiming credit for scarcity and that he tried to inflict scarcity on all of EVE Online, thus creating the PCU crisis these guys are blaming on scarcity because he wanted to nerf our super crap umbrella?
What I will say is, the way that this quote reads to me, the way it sounded to me when I listened to it, I listened to it like 3 times, he is saying that it was the Imperium CSMs that were the reason why Rorquals became a huge thing and Nom Nom's going to go crazy. And the umbrellas and all that kind of stuff happened. And then when he got on, when Horde's guys got on, that's when CCP started doing things to pull back. And you should be thanking him because that's why the game is in the state it is today.
All right. I want to get sorry, I interrupted you because my simple midden brain couldn't exactly grok everything so I want to hand that back to you. Take it away, please.
Well, I mean, I was sitting in the room when they first announced the Rorqual changes, and the first thing I said is, if you guys do this, Delve is going to be wall-to-wall Rorquals. And, I mean...
And we were right, and it was. And it's not like we didn't ask for this. We didn't say... I mean, and this is the biggest criticism that I have about the quote, beyond the fact that, I don't think anybody in their right mind wants to take credit for the game being the way it is right now, because scarcity is not popular at all. I don't know anybody, except for one random nub on Reddit who said, I think scarcity is okay. Everybody else fucking hates it. They're tired of it. It's been 17, 18 months since it started. They want it to be over. There's nothing to do. Nobody can make any money. It costs billions of IS to build ships that won't sell for nearly as much as it costs to make them. Everybody's mad. And that is what's feeding into the PCU numbers right now. That's what's feeding into the dislike and the triggers every time a bad ad comes out. It's what's causing all kinds of problems. If you want to take credit for that, you go right ahead. I'll take credit for fixing stuff that players care about, like the red dot. You want to take credit for scarcity that everybody hates? You go right ahead. Because it wasn't the right thing to do. And they could have done other things that wouldn't have had the same impact on the player base that it has had. And at the end of the day, if you want to pin this on us and try to claim that the only reason that this is even getting worked on is because you guys are on the CSM and before it was worse, that's so insulting. I really can't believe that you'd even say it publicly.
Well, it's not like this was something that we had the option to do. We were just the first ones to figure out that this was a good idea. Delve was wall-to-wall Rorquals, while the North was still kicking people out of their alliance if they got their Rorquals caught. I mean, Mark, we figured this out. We were making money, and they were not.
Mark, how does it feel, Mark, to have him take credit for the Citadel changes too?
Yeah, this is the thing. There's often people will mistakenly conflate that because maybe your group participated in something they were supportive of the Rorqual. They use Rorquals. I would turn that around and say that I don't think you're looking at it the right way. Just you play the game you've got, right? So because a guy lives in low sec, that must mean he's perfectly happy with faction warfare and thinks low sec is just lovely, right? No, not at all. That player doesn't exist. So we kind of played the game we had. If you were to look in the CSM minutes, there is a specific quote in there that I've seen before where one of the Imperium CSM reps, I don't even remember who it was, said, the Rorquals have to stop now or you will never get the genie back in the bottle. And I wish we would have thought twice about saying that, because they were like, hold my beer, let's try to shove the fucking genie back in the bottle. And that's what we're all living through right now in Eve, you know? So I've made my thoughts on this matter very clear. I think scarcity is something that you have in real life, not a fun video game, you know? So it's sort of just one of those unnecessary things that I don't know why we couldn't just keep raising the ceiling rather than doing this weird austerity bullshit.
Like mudflation works historically for all these other fucking MMORPGs. Like you just put more sand in the sandbox. You know, faction titans are a good example, I think, of something that doesn't really bend the meta, right? We're not like, oh my God, 3 people out of this blob of 1,000 titans have Molochs, right? But it's having that Moloch is a big carrot for those 3 or 4 guys, right? It gives them like a super expensive, you don't just have a Lamborghini, you have a Bugatti or something. And, you know, I don't want to have a world where there's 1,000 Molochs, right? But if at the point that we get to a point where there's 1,000 Molochs, it's probably 10 years down the line or whatever. But at least mudflation gets people logging on, especially like, you know, the thing about the pandemic that is so shitty is like we get out of the, people say like, oh, people are getting out of the pandemic and they're going and playing outside and doing things. You really, if going through, like we all just went through a lot of real life scarcity, like it or not, there was a scarcity of opportunity, there was a scarcity of life and just fun, and it sucked a lot. And one of the things that I think that you see in video games where people escape to something that is different. And it's like, you know, when you have enough stuff, games like Daisy and Rust and a lot of the survival-y simulators, like, hey, I only have, you know, a couple of twigs to rub together, like that, you know, that's interesting. But when you've come out of a period of scarcity, I don't want to go visit scarcity in my free time. I think we've all had enough of that. So I think it's a super, super bad combo.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Tony, what's been the impact of scarcity on the smaller mid-sized groups like you guys? I mean, as I'm assuming it's as unpopular with you guys as it is with us, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It doesn't really affect us too much because we weren't really using Rorquals to begin with, and at least in like alliances like Volta, we don't really mine. We don't do too much. I mean, there's like a few guys who do it, but generally we're just buying ore from Jitter and just reprocessing it in our area and then just building ships that way. We're not really mining any resources ourselves.
How do you guys make money?
For the most part, mostly just crabbing or doing other stuff, like PvP. That's about it. I mean, almost all of Volta's like income comes from renters that we have in Declan, rather than us like taxing or making money from an alliance that way.
And that's an important point that I want to point out. Was I think the current scarcity model has put a higher premium on renting than it has far in the past. And I was talking to I was literally talking to Caleb about this like right now. Renting is back as being the OP money-making thing because it's one of the only ways to really generate ISK. And really all the renting is just, it's just extortion writ large. You know, you're just saying, hey.
Landlords, we need more of that in 2021. Let's play a video game where the optimal path is to be a fucking space landlord. Fuck that.
And not,
Can you imagine like, paying rent to fucking elf boy?
It's worse than the landlord thing. It's you're being like, you know, like the bootlegger guy back in the 20s. You're going into the bar and saying, you're going to buy my beer or your bar is going to blow up. You know, and that's the thing. Like, the only reason the people pay rent is the threat that you're going to come and take their stuff and blow their things up. That's it. So is that really what we want? Is that what we want to be the main method for people to make a lot of ISK passively in 2021? I don't think it is.
Yeah, renting is just bad for the game. It puts the players who have to do it into a bad position. It provides an extremely easy way for bots to establish themselves in the game and continue to operate. And I mean, even when Goonswarm ran, when we were doing rental because we had to, because it was such a big source of income. I think most Food and Swarm is sort of opposed to it. Like, it just becomes infested with bots. And if you have rentals, it's largely botting. There's no way around that. It's terrible for the game. It's terrible for the players. It's not fun. And yeah. And one of the big problems with Titans is that there's people who are still hanging on to the 2006 notion that the Titan should be this thing that only one person has, and if you have it, you're super special, and that makes you better than everyone else, and you get to have super weapons that nobody else does. And no MMO has ever done that successfully. It does not work. If you have it and it is worth getting, people will get it, then more people will get it, and eventually everybody will have it. And that is what you need to design around. You can't try and design something to be rare and unusual. That's not how games work. That's not how players play games.
And the worst part is, and the other thing that I get frustrated with, and I want to ask Tony about this as well, is if this is his experience. The constant nerfing of mining, the constant nerfing of anomaly ratting has forced players that want to make IS to go to different areas of the game. So what are the areas that tend to be on the way up in terms of making money? If you look at the MER, blue loot from wormholes is a huge thing now. Abyssals, huge thing now. What do those two things have in common? They are in specific areas of space that are very difficult for the average player to get to, and they're super safe from that for that person doing them from getting killed in PvP. Is that so Tony, is that a fair statement that I'm making there? I mean, in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially with other changes, which I think are healthy for the game, like the DBS and the ESS, a lot of people from NoSec are, just getting hit with sticks over and over again. And a lot of people are just deciding, I can make as much money running burner missions in HiSec than I can using an Ishtar in an anomaly. So why should I use an Ishtar? Or, I can make the same ISK running, tier 4 filaments in Jitter with my Gila, then I can make the same money as I can, using that in an anomaly in Delve. So why should I use my Gila in Delve when my Gila can get blown up? Whereas in the T4, unless I, fuck up the PvE part, which is pretty difficult to do, or I get ganked coming out, I'm at almost no risk.
And listen, I know you guys hate it when I say that wormhole ratting is safe. I'm not saying that it's safe. I'm saying that it's safer than being in a super running anomalies in Delve right now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And when I have people that I trust telling me, oh, by the way, hey, this morning I cleared a C3 of 10 sites and I made 500 million S doing it, that tells me that's the way that people are going to make money. And if it's not something that's putting ships in space that are easy to get, that a group can go and interdict or fight, or that you can cause and pick fights with, then it's not the best kind of income generation. The best income generation should be the kind that is risky enough that if Merc and Nam and I are in a bunch of stabbers and we're running around, we have a chance of catching you and shooting at you. Even if we can't kill you, if you're in space in a system that we can get to without having to go through a whole bunch of scanning and all kinds of other stuff, that's the best, I think, in my opinion, the best way to generate income, best way to generate mining wealth, because that's the kind that gets people in space, that's the kind that gets people fighting, that's the kind that raises the PCU and gives us the ability to do what we want to do in terms of putting people in seats and getting folks out and generating content, and small gang and big gang and whaling. All of that stuff is gone now because of all of the scarcity changes that apparently Gobbins thinks are just fine and great and dandy and wants to take credit for. Which I, frankly, like I said, if he wants to take credit for that, that's fine. I want to have nothing to do with it because I'm still opposed to it. They should have done something different. They should have done what we suggested that they do, which is the mudflation. Give us new stuff to buy, give us new things to build. That's the best way to get rid of wealth in this game, not creating some system where we change everything and then make everything half of what it was and cost twice as much. That's what's frustrating to me. All right. We're a little bit over time, but I do have one last thing. I want to talk to Suetonia specifically because we had a number of major changes that came on CC this week that I want to talk to him about because these are pretty big. We had CCP Paradox put up a post saying that we're getting some significant changes to, first of all, T3C skill loss on death is going away. I think that's a good thing. They're adding a covert Sino beacon deployable. They're adding a booster that will allow you to extend the duration of your cloak hardener that I think everybody was concerned about with these mobile observatories. And they reduced the scam res penalty on fleet interceptors, which I think is going to be helpful. And then they're going to make balance adjustments to the pacifier and the enforcer. We don't know what those are yet. I have asked Rise specifically for another high slot for the pacifier so it can fit its 3 guns plus a cloak and a scanner. But I don't know what I haven't seen what we're going to do yet. So, Tony, talk to us a little bit about these changes. What do you think about them? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you think needs work?
Oh, the T3C skill loss thing is pretty interesting, right? We'll probably see a ton more of them now, because that was a big reason why people didn't want to fly them, is you lose the SP when you die. And now that we have skill injectors, that penalty doesn't really make too much sense, because it was mostly just an ISK penalty. If you die in one, you just buy a skill injector and then you replace the SP that you lost. So it just meant that losing a Tengu or Proteus or whatever just cost you an extra 600 million or whatever the going price of a skill injector is.
What do you think about these new Sino observatory, or the covert Sino beacons? Do you think those are going to be used?
Maybe. It's pretty interesting. One of the things that's pretty cool about it is it doesn't need covert ops level 5 to put down, like the regular covert ops Sino takes. You need Sino 5, which is like a month-long train, and not a lot of people have it. Whereas the deployable doesn't require that, so it'll be a lot easier for some guy to just drop one in a fort with a different character. I think it makes it easier for smaller groups to go out hunting too. If you only have 2 characters, for example, you have your hunter and you have your black ops, you could put one down with your black ops before you jump to your hunter, and then you can use that to jump back. So you don't need to have like a third character that's like stuck in your staging for you to be able to jump back to. You don't have to burn your hunter back to bring your black ops back. So it's pretty nice for that reason too. It just frees up a character for some groups, so it seems pretty cool.
And what do you think about the what do you think they should be adding or changing with the pacifier and the enforcer to make those more useful? I know the enforcer, frankly, for the cost is pretty much hanger candy at this point. Is there anything they can do to make that more viable?
It's only really used as like a bling Sino, right? Bling Hunter Sino, because it has the web and the scram bonus. But it'll be interesting to see if they boosted the speed on it a little bit. I think it goes like slower than a battle cruiser. It goes like 1,350 meters per second or something. I think the Falcon is the slowest recon, and that's just under 1.6. So if they buffed it up to like 1.5k, that'd be pretty cool. And more damage is always cool. Like they gave the Marshal more damage. So if they just gave the Enforcer and the Pacifier a little more damage, I think most people would be happy with it.
Now, Mark, do you have anything to say about any of those changes? Anything you guys are interested in?
I was happy they kind of peeled away a little bit of the harshness related to interceptors. I don't know if they're in a perfect place just yet, related to how they are right now. Maybe another tap or two will get them sort of dialed in so that it continues to be a useful ship platform without being like the only ship people use for that exact job. I know in our sort of just anecdotal us roaming around, we certainly do not see every ship is not a malediction anymore. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. People feel differently about that, but I'd like to maybe see if you could do a little bit more with those just to get them combat capable.
All right. And so, go ahead, Nan. I'm sorry.
I'm glad they finally got rid of the skill loss on the T3s. Like, it didn't make a whole lot of sense when they were first added, except that they were such powerful ships, and they haven't been that same level of power for a long time. Nothing else. There's nothing else you lose skill points for. It's just one of those things that it's a vestige of an earlier time, and it doesn't make any sense anymore. It's time to remove it.
And hopefully we'll get attributes fixed next, because that's another vestige of an earlier time that has no value anymore. So is there anything else specifically that you're looking forward to on the CSM? Anything you're planning on working on that you want to talk about?
Oh, I guess it's just small gang things, like, make it so you can't take anti-blaxes when you're tackled. That would be interesting. More kills for people. Other than that, just small gang balance issues for the most part.
All right. All right, well, gentlemen, you are looking at 4 of your CSM representatives for the next year, 4 of the 5 that were on the Imperium ballot. We managed to pull it off. We have gone 12 minutes over. You guys got an extra 12 minutes of the Meta Show. In fact, you got an extra 4 hours of the Meta Show if you want to watch last night's Rampage stream.
That's true.
So I hope that makes up for us taking last week off for Father's Day. I had a lot of fun today. I always love it when we have Merc and Nam on, and I definitely love when we have Suetoni on because I love to hear his perspective over here. Last words from everybody. Merc.
This will be an interesting year for the CSM. I hope we can get back to Reykjavik again because it just feels a lot more effective if we can get up there. It seems like the world's starting to reopen. I'm concerned about the PCU thing. That should be the subject of every conversation happening in that building right now, if it's not already. I don't think that necessarily this is a ultimate sky is falling fail cascade, but I think when you add in the COVID reopening and the fact that people have lots of time off, some extra cash tucked away in the bank account, all of these things sort of unite together and create a circumstance where, it just feels like there's not a whole lot going on right now. So we need to get after that right away.
Nom.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Any last thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think I've ranted myself out.
Suetonia?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And finally, the savior of angelfish everywhere, the Matani.
Poor fucking fish. He's still alive. He's good. He seems like he's fine.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Just no, not fucking believing, boys. We got to post up on the walls. We'll see you tomorrow and see you tonight. Or, war stops. War doesn't stop regardless of what we want. So keep on fighting, and I'll see you there.
My last statement is, guys, look, I know it's tough out there. I know folks are mad. I know people are upset with the company and everything like that. But you guys don't play this game because of CCP. You play this game because you like to play with your friends. And if you're not having fun, feel free to take a break. Come back when you're ready. But we're looking forward to you joining us tonight, tomorrow, and for the rest of your time in Eve. And we hope that you guys enjoyed the show today. Please keep logging in, keep playing, keep believing. There's no not believing is happening in this place, let me tell you. No hubris either. This has been the Meta Show for June the 26th, 2021. I'm Brisker Ball. I'm joined by the Matani. We have Merkel Chen, Nam Suetonia here for your viewing pleasure. Thanks for everybody being here. You stay classy, Nui.